Hey there, cool kids. We're back for a quick light fabrication video where we are going to customize my Go Plus folding bicycle. This time on Making Believe. Alright, so let's start with some general aesthetics. This bike has three different colors, four actually, going on here in the color scheme, and that's just too many for my liking. It's got some red in the tire rims, the whole bike base is black, and then here on all the decals, you've got white and blue. I mean, pick a color, pick two colors, right? Am I right? I think I'm right. So what I'm going to do, the most difficult thing to change about this besides the base black is probably going to be the red accents in the wheels, and here on the gear shift knob there's a little bit of a red accent, so I think I'm going to keep the black and the red for this bike. It's kind of my race car bike anyway, so a little bit of hot rod red in there goes a long way. So I'm going to try to remove the blue and the white, and these are all decals. So I think my strategy here is going to be similar to what I did recently with removing the film off of some of my windows in the house. It had that old UV film that had started to bubble and crack after a few years of hard sun. And we figured out a pretty good method with a lot of YouTube research to get that stuff off the windows. And the way we did it was by mixing up some soap and water in an old spray bottle here. This is just soapy water, and I use dish soap. Just a bit of dish soap and some water, and it's ready to go. You mist the surface of the window, get it nice and wet, and then put saran wrap over it, plastic wrap, for at least an hour, sometimes two, in order to let that penetrate behind the film and start to get to work on the adhesive that's holding it to the window. I think the same technique might work with these decals. I'm not really sure. I've never tried it before, so we're going to try it together. Here we go. All right, let's start with the biggest decal here. It's actually on both sides. I think that might be the easiest one to work free. Get it nice and saturated, overly saturated. A little soapy water is not going to hurt anything on this bicycle frame. And I'm just going to wrap it. Wrap it up nice and good there. I'll just let that sit for a little over an hour, and we'll come back and check on it and see if I can't get behind and start to work the decal off. If I can get the decal free of the frame, I'm pretty confident that this soapy water solution will clean up any adhesive behind it quite nicely. So that's the plan. We'll see how it goes. All right, it's been about an hour and a half, so I'm going to go ahead and unwrap that. I've got a couple of tools here. I've got your standard putty knife. I've got a chisel. I've got a 3D printed sort of scraper. It's PLA. It's like the design file I think was made to knock ice off your windshield, but it worked okay for us. All three of these tools actually worked okay for us for getting the film off of the windows. And then I've also got this pair of pliers because with that window film, if you were lucky and it didn't break, you could grab a corner of it once you'd lifted it off with the needle nose pliers and kind of just peel off that whole piece of film all at once. And I'm hoping that's what will work with this decal, but let's give it a whirl. I will unwrap the wrap first. Hey, how's it going? Hey. Yeah, totally. All right, it's still wet in there. That's a good sign. Start with the putty knife. a little bit of progress. Oh yeah, here we go. Boom. There it is. That worked like a charm. I'm really pleased. Right, I'm gonna get to work on the rest of these decals, and we'll reconnect when it's all done. All right. This thing is a beauty. I gotta say, just something about removing those decals, logo free. It's just elegant, classic. I love this bike. All right, so now what we're left with are just the red rims and the black base, which is exactly what I wanted. Obviously, there's some silver metal details here and there for the bike mechanics, but that's totally fine. That can be a third accent color. And in fact, I might add a little bit more of that color before all is said and done. So next up, I want to continue to remove anything I don't want on the bike before I start adding things back on, and I'm going to keep the reflectors on the wheels, front and back. I am going to remove the reflector in the front, and the reflector in the back looks to be already missing, but I'm going to remove the clamp that housed it as well. I did get this bike secondhand. A neighbor of mine who happens to be a fairly prominent musician was selling it. He had a garage sale. He put a bunch of his musical equipment out for sale too, but this was the piece that I wanted. And I picked it up for a very tidy sum of $50, which I think is well worth it. I think these things retail for about $250 to $300. So nice find. It has this piece of plastic here that is guarding the gearbox from damage on the outside, but you know what? I don't like it, so that's coming off. I guess that did just come off. But I'm going to remove this clamp back here and the reflector up front, and then we're going to start to look at additions and how I can add to this bike and make it even better for my own personal uses. All right, so after a brief intermission to fix the plumbing in my front yard, plumbing, I mean irrigation, water lines, it doesn't matter. A story for another day. I am back to customizing this bike, and I think I'm going to start with the cup holder. I found a really cool design on Thingiverse, and I scaled it so that it would fit the neck of my bike for the clasp, and then the cup holder drops into that, but the cup holder, well, let's just say that's too small. This is like shot glass size. So what I did was I sliced off on the original file the locking mechanism to the ring, and I kept that this size, so 50% actually. I shrunk the whole thing down to 50%, and then I attached the 50% lock to the full-size cup holder. Now this is still too narrow to fit my canteen, but you know what? A full canteen of I use clean canteens is what I'm talking about, by the way. They're big, and a full canteen is kind of heavy, and I think it's going to be too heavy for this particular function. However, a can of soda, which I actually don't drink, but a can of beer, which, yeah, I do drink, or near beer, and similar size bottles, the like plastic Perrier bottles fit in here quite nicely. Peregrino bottles fit in here quite nicely. So I might just actually bite the bullet. I'm pretty sustainable usually, and I don't like to purchase plastic bottles, but I might buy one and drink the yummy Perrier, and then reuse the bottle over and over again until end of life as my miniature canteen for this particular bicycle. I did go ahead and print this in two-tone. Now, I have a dual head printer, which will print two colors at the same time, but I actually didn't use it on this. There's a trick I'd like to share with you to get two tones out of a single head printer, and that is just to print one color up to the point you wanted it. I only went to 10%. I wanted it to stop essentially before the red got up to the line where these arches came in. So it's really just a red base
and a red stripe around the bottom, and then the rest of it's black. So I let it print in red, and then I paused it, and I changed the filament to black and restarted the print. And that gives you this nice, beautiful two-tone look, which you'll see throughout all of the custom prints that I'm adding to the bike as we move forward. It's all the same technique. And if anybody has a question on that or wants to see like a demo video, I'm happy to put one up. Just let me know in the comments below. But for now, I think I'm going to assemble this first. I'm going to put the cup holder on first because I think the rest of my attachments are going to be dependent upon how they interface with this and have enough clearance either way, like up, down, or side to side. So this will be first. Let's do it. Right, so the way this works, the neck ring clamps around the neck of the bicycle, and it's got a little slot right there for a nut and a bolt to go in on either side. Now, I did scale this down 50% to fit the neck of this bicycle. It was, a lot bigger for a normal... Actually, I think it was designed for a scooter originally. And so it was made to fit a much larger screw. But I think like an M3, maybe an M3 will fit in there. I'm going to consult my collection of bolts and nuts, and I'm going to find something that works for this particular application. All right, yeah, it turns out I was right. The M3 screw and nut, which almost isn't even necessary on this because it threaded through the hole so tightly that it's actually the screw was holding these two together, regardless of the nut on the end. But the M3 screw was the right choice for this. I think it's probably going to end up all the way at the bottom here at this connection. And while we're here and while we're looking at this interface, I got to step back here and give a little bit of props to this e-bike for making a handlebar that is two ways adjustable. So in one way, it folds like all the other foldable bikes, but this allows the handlebars to raise up for taller folk. And, while that's not a big issue for short old me, it is an issue for taller people, and I totally get it. So now that this is on, yeah, it's a really nice, it's a tiny bit of red, but it's a really nice complement already. So we're getting there. I think it's time to put the cup holder on and see how that works. Okay, cool. That looks great. As you can see, or maybe you can see, let's try to get down in there. Okay, I'm doing a terrible job at that, but it is a dovetail lock. Let's see if we can see it from the side. There it is. And it should hold up okay. It's a tiny little interface, as I said, for a big old connection. So this may break. And you know what? If it breaks, I'm just going to print another one, and I'm going to reinforce the interface until I get it right. It's a fine balance with these things, especially things you're kind of inventing on the fly from somebody else's designed part. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next items, and we'll see how this holds up. Right, so the next thing I want to add to the e-bike is a cell phone holder. This bike needs its own digital computer and navigation system, so there's nothing better for that in this day and age than a cell phone. So I've printed up my standard cell phone holder, although I have given it the two-tone black and red treatment, just like I did for the cup holder, and man, did that come out beautifully. I actually printed two of these, so that I can add one down below as well for a battery pack to charge my phone on the fly in case of need. I found that really useful in the Schwinn, and I kind of plan on taking this one for some longer rides, so it's good to have a battery pack every now and then, because my cell phone battery is not always the most reliable. Let's put these puppies on and see how they look. Right. That looks slick. I'm digging it. I managed to just procure some red zip ties from the ye old 99-cent store on my last visit, and these tiny little red pops of color are really starting to add up to a really slick presentation on this bicycle. I am digging it. I do not have my cell phone with me. Of course it's inside, but this battery pack I've got here that I'm actually going to use lower down is about the same size as my cell phone, and if I insert it properly, it does seem to fit in there. It's pretty tight fit, to be honest. These handlebars are not enormous, and there's not a lot of real estate to use here, but this will definitely hold my cell phone intact while I'm riding, and I'm stoked. So I'm going to move on to the next one. I'm going to try to locate it. I would like to locate it directly below the cup holder, because it is just for the battery pack, and I'd like a wire to easily be able to transverse the space between the two. I can probably buy a pretty short cable online to make that happen. We shall see. Oh yes, yes, yes. There's so much yes here. Look at that. Ugh. I just gotta come around so you can see those red bands that pop a color from the front. What? This bike looks so good already, and I'm not even done. All right, on to the next. I mean, should I put the shot glass holder on there? That's irresponsible, right? Don't drink and bike, people. I mean, you know, not at the same time. Cool, so next up I want to install this solar-powered headlight. I've used the same headlight for both my Swagtron e-bike, which has a headlight built in that's powered by its internal battery. But if you're out riding and it's dark and you run your battery down to nothing, that headlight fails. So I thought this would be a good backup, and so far it's worked out pretty well. I also installed this on my Schwinn bike. You can see that in the review for the Schwinn, the customized Schwinn that I put up not too long ago. And I'm going to install one here on this hot rod we're building here for the Go Plus bike as well. I like this light for several reasons. One, it's widely available. You can probably find this at Home Depot or any of your local hardware stores. It's even at like Harbor Freight, although it does cost a bit more there. I also like this light because they're pretty regularly available at my 99-cent store for like absolutely no cost. And I like things that don't cost a lot of money and work very well. So far in my experience, this has worked just fine. They're also very easy to take apart and put back together again, which is going to be necessary for the installation of this headlight on the bike. And then finally, I like the brushed aluminum surrounding the solar panel and the LED part because it provides a really nice reflective surface. So removing that front reflector, this kind of like gives you that front reflector back without having to use the original factory one. That's not as attractive. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to take this apart and show you how I do it and how I install it right here next. All right, let's do a little unboxing here. Okay, this is what we got. These things are stakes in order to put this in the ground. It is intended as a ground light. Set those aside, set the box aside, and this is what we're working with here. I'm going to grab a screwdriver and we will open her up and do a little operating to get a zip tie mount all set for the bike. Alright, once those 4 screws are free, the casing will pop right off, and there is a plastic guard that goes over the solar panel mount, and then the solar panel itself will also pop out, but when it does, be careful, because it's hardwired in to the battery terminal behind it and to the switch, and these solder point connections are not very strong. If you feel like you want to go ahead and like get your soldering iron out and make this a lot stronger, it's not a terrible idea. The good thing about these lights is once you get in here, you can remove this battery and just swap it out for a new one. So sometimes, especially when you get these things from the 99-cent store, this battery's been sitting here touching these terminals for a really long time, and it's kind of lost its ability to hold a charge. But as you can see here, it's 400 milliamp hour, 1.2 volt battery, which is lined up for what this solar panel can charge in a given day in order to provide light at night. So that's what you're looking for. You don't want to get a bigger battery than this. This capacity is right. At any rate, once you have this open, you kind of want to carefully just set this aside. And what we're looking to do next is drill holes in the back of here to attach our zip ties at the top and at the bottom without damaging the internal electronics, so that those zip ties can come out the back and attach to the bike itself. Now, there are these insets here, which can work just fine. I think that's what I've done. Actually, I don't remember. It's been a while since I did this last time. Or you can drill your own holes. It really doesn't matter at all. I think I'm going to drill my own holes just to get them a little closer together here. and to avoid hitting the switch. I think if I use these and take a zip tie over that switch, it's just going to be a little close and it might cause some damage when the light is in use. So yeah, let's get to drilling. I've got a piece of wood here to place underneath the surface so that I don't damage my beautiful countertop. And let's put some holes in this puppy. Whoa. Need your own guidance, Nathan. Careful with that panel and that wiring, because it's shit. Alright, so I've made these holes big enough to easily get zip tie through either end to go around the handlebars and then zip off. So next up, I'm going to do the reverse process here. I'm going to get my zip ties prepped in, and then I'm going to put this back together fully so that I can just attach it right to the bike. Alright, all reassembled. Zip ties are at the ready. Let's put this on the bike. Alright, all mounted up and secure. I went with the black zip ties for this one because I don't want it to stand out on this side, and because it's kind of like sharing space between the phone holder and the cup holder. That's going to be great. So the only final thing you want to remember to do here is this has an on-off switch in the back. The off switch just kills it all together. The on switch will have the light come on when the photovoltaics are not detecting sunlight. So for me, I like to let the battery charge up and have the switch set to off so that I've got a full charge and I can manually flip it over when it gets dark. But if you like it to go automatic, that's fine. Just know that when you put this in your garage at night, that light's going to come on. Unless you've got enough light going in your garage to like trick the photovoltaic sensor into thinking that it is daylight outside. Right, so the headlight that I put on the bike, it's good for being seen, but it's not really good for seeing, so to speak. It doesn't shine a ton of light, and it shines it straight forward as opposed to like down at the road and ahead of me where I really need it to see what I'm about to ride over, per se. So I'm going to add some supplemental lights. I picked up these red shiny metal 9 LED flashlights from the 99-cent store, and I whipped out this bike light holder. I've got 2 of these, and I'm going to mount them to the handlebars so that they're facing kind of down. I'll have easy access to reach down and turn them on and off as needed, and I can kind of angle them as needed. This bike light, since my handlebars for the foldable bike are a lot thinner than like your standard mountain bike handlebars, I actually added a little piece of foam padding in here to make it fit, and it does. It fits beautifully. It's a really good design. I will drop a link for the files for this bike holder in the description for this video in case you want to print one or have your local makerspace print one for you. All right, coolness. These light mounts are really variable. I like it. You can actually, shift it this way, and you can also shift it this way. They're pretty secure too with the padding inside. I think that actually was a nice touch, not just like aesthetically with the colors, but it kind of really holds in the place I want it to be. And this is going to give me really ease of access on both sides. And it doesn't interfere with my phone mount, which I thought it might. This is really small handlebar space, and it's starting to get a little crowded here the more things I add. So I'm glad the lights fit. I think that looks really, really slick, actually. And these lights are really going to be functional to actually light up the ground in front of me while I'm riding after dark. Alright, just a few more features I want to add to this hot rod bicycle, one of which are light up wheels. So these little puppies screw right on to the tube connector, and they're made for Schrader valves, but they do come with a Presta valve adapter in case you've got Prestas on your tire, so it totally works. And they advertise these for motorcycles and for automobiles, but they work just fine on your bicycle. And the way they work is they've got some batteries inside them, and when pressure is exerted on the light by riding, usually about 12 to 15 miles an hour or greater, they light up. It's pretty neat. So what you do when you first get them, they come in a bunch of colors. Obviously I chose a red for this particular purpose. You just unscrew here, And you'll see on the inside they've got a little piece of paper that is blocking the battery from touching that that terminal. So you just remove that piece of paper. It's got a couple of button coin cell batteries on the inside, just like you'd use for a watch. You screw it back together, and you can see it lights up whenever it has any sort of pressure applied to it. So I'm going to screw 2 of these onto my wheels and then move on to the next phase. Cool, dude. Those look great. Those are gonna be great. Okay, so the final thing I want to do to this bike is actually change out the pedals. For some reason, even though this is a foldable, this did not come with foldable pedals. And I wanted to swap them out for some. So I've got some, they actually are identical to this visually, except they fold up. Let's put those on next. So to remove the existing pedals, you're just gonna need a standard wrench, and you wanna get a good grip on the inside. Here, I'll show you on this pedal. Right here, you want to grab this part and you want to turn it counter to the way that the pedal would turn. And then just reverse it to put the new ones in. So I'm going to actually brace the other pedal there and then just turn this right off. Installing the new pedals exactly the same way. You just want to screw it into that exposed socket. Do pay particular attention. You see the L here on the tip. That means this is the left pedal. You've got an R on your right pedal, and you want to install those on the proper side. Otherwise, they're just going to unscrew themselves while you're riding. So once you've got your new pedal installed, you do want to get back on there with a wrench, and you want to tighten up that that connection, because you can't just screw it in with the pedal. It's not going to be tight enough, and the pedal is meant to rotate against this part. So you want to make sure that this part here is actually threaded all the way nice and tight into the pedal. And once you're there, these guys, you just push in and pop down, and you've got yourself folding pedals. Much, much better. I'm going to install the other one, and we'll be good to go. Right, so to complete this video and to complete this whole red and black themed mood we've got going on here today, I am wearing the brand new Mark 13 Survivor Gauntlet, fresh off the press. This is one of my brand new designs. If you're interested in something like this, sort of a, you know, toolkit on your arm with all your choice pieces right there, easy disposal, I'll drop a link for this in the description below. You can pick one up for yourself. I'll link you to my Etsy store. But for now, cool kids, it is time to fly. I'll see you next time on Make It Believe.